Hi, welcome to Kick and Crochet. Today I'm really excited to share this project with you. This is a free blanket pattern that is on my blog, and it's a Jasmine Stitch Ripple Baby blanket. And today I'm going to make a video just to show you how to get started. So I'll do like a smaller version of the first couple of rows to make sure you know how to do the stitches. So I'll set that aside. And this blanket uses Caron Simply Soft yarn. So this is the exact yarn that I used in that sample blanket. I used the dark blue is Ocean, soft blue is the light blue. This is, I think it's soft blue, might be light blue. This is soft pink, and then just white are the colors that I used, but of course you can pick whatever colors you'd like. So to start, if you're familiar with Jasmine Stitch, then this will not be new to you. But I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to do a puff chain of 16. So to make this blanket, it has to be a multiple of 8 for your starting puffs. I'm going to do 16 just for the sample. So I'm going to do a chain and pull up a loop, yarn over, insert my hook in the stitch and pull up another loop, and then one more time. So this is just a regular Jasmine Stitch starting puff. I'm going to hold the yarn so that I don't lose that loop when I pull through. Then I'll insert my hook through that loop, tighten it up a little, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over and pull through both. So that is one puff chain puff. I never can decide what to call it. And then for the next one, I don't need to make another chain because I have that single crochet right there. So I'm going to pull up a loop, yarn over, insert my hook in that stitch, pull up a loop, and do that again, yarn over, insert my hook in the loop and pull up a stitch, then hook the yarn so it doesn't pull through, yarn over, pull it through all the loops, insert my hook back through that loop, tighten it up, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over and pull through both. I'll do one more sample and then I'll speed up the video while I make the rest of them. So pull up a loop, yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. So I have 5 loops on my hook, grab my yarn, pull through, tighten up. Okay, so I have 16 chain puffs. For my actual blanket that I made, I used 40 chain puffs, and that was about 3 feet wide. So you can change how many puffs you do based on how big your blanket you want, but you just have to make sure it's a multiple of 8. And if you've watched my video on designing ripple blankets, then you probably remember that I said I always start with my points up on the ends. This one I'm going to break that rule. So I actually start with a down zigzag. So mine's going to look like this. Right? Zigzag, zigzag. Okay, so normally when you do Jasmine Stitch, you're going to do an extra chain puff to turn, but because we're decreasing on this turn, I'm not going to do a puff stitch, a chain puff to turn. So I'm going to pull up a loop and turn, and I call this a turn decrease. So I turn, and now this first part, I'm going to yarn over and go through the loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the stitch and pull up a loop just like normal. Then I'm going to do that with the next stitch, yarn over, insert in the next stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, insert in that next stitch and pull up a loop. So now I have 2 bunches of loops on my hook, and now I'm not going to do a third one for my decrease. I'm just going to do these 2, and I'm going to hook my yarn over and pull through all of the loops on my hook, insert my hook through that loop and tighten it up a little bit, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through both. So now that is my turn decrease. Now if you want, if you have trouble keeping track of where your ends are, you can put a stitch marker in here because that'll be your last stitch of the row. Now I'm going to do 3 regular Jasmine stitches. So if you're not remembering or you've never done Jasmine stitch before, this is how you do it. You pull up a loop, yarn over, insert in the same stitch, and pull up another loop, yarn over in the same stitch and pull up a loop. Now yarn over in this bottom stitch here, pull up a loop, yarn over in that same stitch and pull up a loop, and then go to the next one, yarn over in that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over in the next stitch, and pull up a loop. So now I have 3 bunches of loops on my hook, and I'm going to grab my yarn here, then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops on my hook. Takes a little practice, but you'll get pretty fast with some practice. Tighten that up, then yarn over and pull through that loop, and then yarn over and pull through both. So you can see this stitch now has 3 bunches coming out, and they end up in different places, right? Because I pulled those loops from different positions. So that's my first regular Jasmine stitch. And I'll do another one. And this pattern is a little bit interesting because I don't actually decrease when I get to the very end. I will only decrease at the beginning of each row, not at the end of each row. And so one more regular Jasmine stitch, and then we'll do our increase. So now I've got my turn decrease and 1, 2, 3 regular Jasmine stitches. Now I'm going to do my increase. So for this blanket, to do the Jasmine stitch increase, it actually looks the same as my turn decrease, which might seem a little strange, but you'll see how it works. So I'm going to pull up a loop, yarn over and go through the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the same stitch, pull up a loop. And I'm going to do that down here, yarn over, insert in that stitch, pull up a loop, and then again. So I have 2 bunches of loops on my hook. And I'm not going to go on to the next stitch yet. So I'm going to yarn over, grab my yarn so I don't lose it, pull through the stitch, and then finish this stitch. So now I just have 2 bunches that came off of my increase stitch, and now I'm going to do 3 regular Jasmine stitches again. So that's a regular Jasmine stitch. So if you look at this stitch here, this was a regular one. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 puffs coming out of that center. This is where we did our increase though, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 puffs coming out. So it has an extra puff up on the top to go with the extra post that's coming out of this stitch. So we increased it by 1 stitch, just like we decreased it by 1 stitch over here. I'm going to do 2 more regular Jasmine stitch. So now after my increase, I had 1, 2, 3 regular Jasmine stitches, and now I'm going to do my Jasmine stitch decrease. So to decrease, I'm going to start out just like a regular Jasmine stitch. So you can do your first 3 groups of loops on your hook just the same. So this is all just like a regular Jasmine stitch would be. But now instead of finishing, I'm going to go through one more. I'm going to do it one more time. So I'm going to yarn over and go through the next stitch and pull up a loop twice. So now I have 4 bunches of loops on my hook instead of just 3. So I've gone through 1 extra stitch to decrease. Now I'll finish that off by pulling through all the loops. So So that's how you do a decrease in the middle of a row. And if you watched my video on increasing and decreasing Jasmine stitch, you'll notice that this one looks different. That's because the other increase that I did actually increases, I think, by 2 stitches at a time instead of just 1. So for this pattern, we want it to increase just by 1, so we're doing this style. Okay, I'm going to continue on now. I'm going to do 3 regular Jasmine stitch, an increase, then 4 regular Jasmine stitch to end it. So I did my decrease and then 3 regular Jasmine stitch. You can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 places left to work stitches, so it's perfect. My stitch count is right. So here I'm due for another increase. So remember, that's just going to have 2 groups of loops on my hook. And I'll do the first 2 loops like a normal Jasmine stitch, the first 2 groups of loops. And then I'm going to finish that stitch. And now, like I said, I'm not going to do a decrease on the end of the row, so I'm going to do 4 regular Jasmine crochet stitches to finish this row. And remember, when we first started, we had that chain at the very beginning, so that's where I'm going to work into for the end of this row. So that is the end of the row. And you might be thinking, how can you do this without decreasing at the very end? When you do a ripple blanket, you just have to make sure you have the same number of increases and decreases. So we had 1 decrease, 1 increase, 1 decrease, 1 increase. So if I decrease here, then my blanket is going to start angling in. So because of the way the Jasmine stitch decreases work, we don't do a decrease at the very end. But when we turn this row, this is where we do the decrease. So remember the turn, puff, we don't do the chain puff on the end. So it's actually kind of easier than a regular end of the row for Jasmine crochet. So we turn, go through that, pull up a loop, yarn over, through that stitch and pull up a loop, and then the next stitch. So now for the turning decrease, I've got 2 groups of loops on my hook. I'll finish that off. Okay, I think I'm going to stop it there because I think you guys get the idea. This pattern is really simple, and once you get the hang of it, you won't need to look at the pattern at all. You do a turning decrease, 3 regular, 1 increase, 3 regular, 1 decrease, 3 regular, increase, 3 regular, decrease, all the way across your row. Now for my actual blanket, I did 6, I haven't actually woven in the ends on it yet, but I did 6 rows with the ocean color. Then 2 rows of light blue, 2 rows of pink, 2 rows of white, 2 rows of pink, 2 rows of light blue, and then 6 again. I did the same repeat, and then I ended with 6, or I will end, I'm not actually done. I will end with 6 more rows of the ocean. So this pattern is written out on my blog. The link's in the bio, or not the bio, the link is in the description of the video if you want to go check it out on the blog. I hope that you enjoy it. I love this fabric. It is so squishy and soft, and I wish that I had somebody who would want to make an adult size one of this, because I don't have the patience for it, but I would love to snuggle up with it. It's wonderful. Okay, so happy crocheting. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to see all the next videos.